guys know, the NBA draft was just a few days ago, and as a Detroit native and a Detroit Pistons fan, I'm not gonna lie, I was very sad on draft day to see that we got the 5th overall pick once again after going on that crazy losing streak, having the worst record in the NBA for like the last 2 or 3 seasons, or one of the worst records in the NBA the last 2 or 3 seasons. I'm very heartbroken to see the Detroit Pistons at number 5 once again, but nonetheless, that's what makes you a good organization, a good front office. You got to make the correct pick, a pick that's going to make your team better for the future. But nonetheless, on to today's video. If you're a Houston Rockets fan, I think you should feel the exact opposite of the way that I'm feeling. I believe you guys initially had the 9th pick in this year's NBA draft, but with the Brooklyn Nets and the James Harden trade that took place years ago, with them being bad this season, I believe you guys got the number 3 pick, which belongs to them. And due to that trade, now the number 3 overall pick goes to the Houston Rockets. So this is a great thing for the Houston Rockets. The James Harden trade just continues to give to this team. The rebuild initially opened up so much cap space for them to make moves in free agency, and then it's giving them so much draft capital. And we look at the players that these guys has drafted since they've traded James Harden away from the Brooklyn Nets. They've just been doing a fantastic job. And then again, another lottery pick, another top 4, another top 5 pick in this year's NBA draft. It just puts the cherry on top for the Houston Rockets. And we look at what the Houston Rockets have been able to do with these lottery picks over the years. We started in 2021, where they had the number 2 overall pick, and they also had the number 16 overall pick, both in the first round. Number 2 was Jalen Green, and number 16 was Alperen Sengun. And we look at the Houston Rockets, we look at this roster right now. I think they have 6 talented young players that they can build around and that they should build around. And we look at Jalen Green and Alperen Sengun. I think we can all agree on that these are the 2 guys that have the most upside out of the bunch, and also probably the highest skill level out of these 6 guys as well. And I think Alperen Sengun and Jalen Green, I think they both did a great job individually this season, showcasing how great they could be. Alperen Sengun, right before he went down with that injury, he was already having his best season. But those like last 5 to 4 games, he was playing the best basketball out of this whole season. I believe he was averaging somewhere like 27 points per game to go along with 13 rebounds and like 5 or 6 assists. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was ultra efficient. And then right as soon, I would say like the game before, or maybe 2 games before Alperen Sengun goes down with his injury, then Jalen Green, he starts to figure things out. He starts to shoot more efficient. He starts to take better shots, and then it's like the basketball became the same size as an ocean for Jalen Green. He couldn't miss. He went on a crazy 10, 11, 12 game streak of just putting up some crazy numbers, and he put himself in some elite company with some of the best players in NBA history. So I think if you're a Houston Rockets fan, I think you should love what you've seen from Jalen Green and Alperen Sengun as individuals last season. And now we move on to the 2022 NBA draft, where once again the Houston Rockets, they had 2 first-round picks, 3rd overall pick this time, Jabari Smith, and then 17th overall pick, my favorite player on the Houston Rockets as of right now, and that's Tari Eason. And you see the coincidence there. Jalen Green was number 2, Jabari Smith was number 3, Sengun was 16, and now Tari Eason was the 17th overall pick. So I thought that was kind of funny right there. But nonetheless, and I think with the direction that the NBA is going in, having 2 players like Jabari Smith Jr. and Tari Eason, I think it is very vital. And when I say the direction that the NBA is going in, I mean that in so many different ways. I think for one, I think we're seeing the game of basketball become more positionless, and I think being able to be, or I should say, being able to have multiple switchable defenders on your team, I think that's very vital, and that's exactly what Tari Eason and Jabari Smith Jr. are. They are they're very high capable defenders, and they can guard multiple positions. And then also we're seeing the NBA go away from like super teams, having 3 superstars or having 3 all-stars or 4 all-stars. We're now seeing teams get two really good players and build around those guys. Put the correct pieces around them, and it's been so effective. The Denver Nuggets are a prime example. We look at the Oklahoma City Thunder. They have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and a bunch of high-quality role players around him. I'm sure a couple of those guys will blossom into all-stars as well. We look at the Boston Celtics. They have they're not the best example because they have so many high quality role players, but essentially it's Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, and then they have a bunch of good role players around those two guys. So I think having Jabari Smith Jr. and Tari Eason is very important for the Houston Rockets because you're not developing everyone to become a superstar or an all-star. So you got these guys that could be really good in their roles, and they fit around the two best players on this team. You have Jabari Smith Jr., who can space the floor. He can knock down the jump shot. He's 6'10", so he can rebound the basketball, and like we already established, he can defend so many different positions. And then he has a lot of upside as an offensive shot creator. And then we look at Tari Eason, and I'm in love with Tari Eason's game because it seems like he's always in the right spot at the right time, whether it's on the offensive or the defensive side of the ball. He's just a very high energy guy. He hits the offensive glass just as hard as he hits the defensive glass. He runs the floor really hard. He can catch lobs. He can finish. He can finish in transition, finish in traffic, and his trade ball is not as looking as bad as people were saying it was going to look during his when he was getting reviewed for the NBA draft. So I think these two guys right here, tremendous size. Tari Eason is 6'8", but I believe he has like a 7'2" wingspan, crazy vertical, and he had the biggest hands in his draft class. So getting those two guys, and I think once you can get Tari Eason out on the court consistently, and I think the Houston Rockets had a good season, but I think they can have an even better season if they have Tari Eason out on the court more consistently. And then last but certainly not least, we get to the most recent draft, the 2023 NBA draft, and the Houston Rockets, they selected, they had the 4th overall pick in this draft, and then also the 20th overall pick in this draft. At number 4, they went with one of the Thompson twins, Amen Thompson, and then at number 20, they went with Cam Whitmore. And with the man Thompson, I had a really fun time watching him this previous season. It's like the way that he moves with the basketball in his hands. Me personally, I've never really seen nothing like it. It's like he moves with so much explosiveness, but it's under so much control that he has some swag on it and some savviness to it. And I really wish he was in a situation where we could have seen the ball in Amen Thompson's hands a little bit more. But we know in this team, the Houston Rockets, they had Fred VanVleet, they had Dylan Brooks, you had Sengun, you had Jalen Green. So he's kind of at the bottom of the food chain right now, especially when the Houston Rockets, bringing in Coach Ime Udoka, they were put in a situation with the roster that they had that they were trying to win. They were trying to get into the playoffs. So I get Amen Thompson, he kind of has to start at the bottom of the food chain and work his way up. But I felt like whenever he did have the basketball in his hands, whenever he got a rebound, he pushed it up the court, it just felt like something spectacular was going to happen. But he has that type of vibe to him. I think in the future he's going to be the point guard for the Houston Rockets, but he kind of fits that same criteria as the other two guys that we just talked about, Jabari Smith Jr. and Tari Eason. He's a positionless basketball player with his height, his speed, his athleticism. He can do so many things for you on the court. He can play so many different roles for you. When Alperen Sengun went down with his injury, he kind of became the center for the Houston Rockets on the offensive side of the ball, setting screens, sitting in a dunker position, finishing strong around the rim, and then also just putting him in that position as the playmaker that he is. It just made the Houston Rockets offense look a lot smoother. And then also on the defensive side of the ball, he's a great rebounder, a great help defender. He can block shots, and then he's a terrific on-ball defender, just like his brother, Soy Thompson. So I think getting a man was big time for the Houston Rockets, and I think he's going to be special as time goes on. And then you get Cam Whitmore, who was kind of like a project player. And honestly, getting Cam Whitmore was a blessing for the Houston Rockets. When we look at Cam, he was projected to be a top 5 pick. The Pistons, who had the 5th overall pick last year, I thought we were going to select Cam Whitmore, but he fell all the way to number 20. And from the number 4 spot, all the way to number 20. They had like a selection on the NBA draft that said like best available. Cam Whitmore's name was there the entire time, and he fell all the way down to 20 to the Houston Rockets. And I'm sure you guys know it's because of his injury history, and teams were scared of his knee injury. And it wasn't too bad. It wasn't too bad this season for the Houston Rockets. I think he played a nice amount of games, and in those games he showcased how special he could be. He has the type of athleticism and the type of motor that you just can't teach. He plays hard on every single play. He's a willing defender. He gets a bunch of steals. He gets a bunch of easy transition finishes. And then there were some games where he just got hot from three. So I think getting these 6 guys were big time for the Houston Rockets. And in a perfect world, you keep all 6 of these guys together. And I know 9 times out of 10 that probably won't happen, but just still the Houston Rockets, at the situation that they're in right now, Coach Ime Udoka, who has taught this team discipline on the defensive side of the ball. The Houston Rockets became a top 10 defense last season under Ime Udoka. Getting him, they have Fred VanVleet and Dylan Brooks, 2 high-quality veteran role players that could play on any team in the NBA. And then you have all of this young talent, and then you add the 3rd overall pick. And with this 3rd overall pick, the Houston Rockets can do so many things with it. They can use it, develop this player, add it to this young core, or they can package it. They can trade the number 3 pick by itself, or package it with some of these other young players that we just talked about on this team. And that's the great thing. That's the great thing for the GM of the Houston Rockets. He's in a position where he can go in so many different directions, and from the way I'm looking at it, most of these directions are very, very positive. So this offseason, in this case for the Houston Rockets, looking at how their season ended, looking at how competitive they was with the young talent on this team, it's going to be very excited to see what they do this offseason. And I'm definitely going to be keeping my eyes on them, and I'm going to be making as much videos on these guys as possible. I really love talking about the Houston Rockets, and I love watching you guys conversate in the comment section. You guys' opinions are always so different with each other, and I just love seeing where everyone is coming from. But nonetheless, that's going to be it for today's video. If you guys enjoyed, please leave a like, comment down below if you agree or disagree, and then subscribe for more weekly content. We do this all the time, man, and that's curtains.